Hey everybody, Josh the RV Nerd here at Haylett RV of Coldwater, Michigan. And something I get a lot of requests on are like, tell me about these different types of slide outs. I see this one has cables and this one has these little silvery things and some I don't see anything. What are these things? What are the differences? And kind of like a lot of my videos, they're all the best in a different way. So I wanted to kind of take a moment to highlight each type of slide out and how when used appropriately, they're all pretty darn good, but they all have a different use and purpose. So I wanted to start with cable slides because they seem to be most often the misunderstood slide out system, because you look at it and I think a lot of people, especially when they see the mechanism going in and out of the RV when you're running the slides in and out, they go, oh my god, what is that cheap thing? And the curious part is nothing could be further from the truth. Interestingly, cable slide outs are the most expensive slide system. They're also pretty much the lightest weight, and they can do some things that other lightweight slide systems can't. They can still be floor flush, they can still go out and then kick down. They allow for deeper slides, which is what you see on like the big open ranges with the extra deep slide outs. And as more and more RVs have gone to these opposing slide outs and have gone heavier and heavier, cable driven slide outs have seen a huge rebirth and revival, like Phoenix-like in comparison, because they can help control the weight of a big multi-slide RV. Now, like anything, when it first was introduced in the RV business, they didn't seem to be installed or applied very well or something like that, and sometimes on older RVs you could see a little bit of slack in the cables here. I really don't generally see that anymore. Cable-driven slide-outs seem to be the least adjusted slide out of anything that we've seen. They just don't generally seem to need a whole lot of attention or work. They really just work. Now, sometimes people go, yeah, but I'm looking at a piece of what looks like exposed steel or something here. Aren't we going to have potential corrosion issues? And the answer is not really no. This is like some heavy-duty, super high-grade aircraft-type cable, which is one of the reasons it's very expensive. And to give you an idea, guys, cable-driven slide-outs are literally the least warranted mechanical thing at all of Keystone RV. And as the #1 producer of fifth wheels and laminated trailers in the entire market, if someone was going to have a problem with cable-driven slides, just by sheer volume, you think it would have been them. And really, the only kind of downfall of cable-driven slides, other than the fact that they do have a fair amount of cost to them, is the fact that a lot of the mechanism is actually installed inside the camper wall. And that means that the slide out actually does need to extend into the RV a couple more inches. Now, on a lot of big super slide floor plans like this, it absolutely has no effect. But on these smaller, like couples campers or small bunkhouses or whatnot, it can sometimes prevent certain furniture options from being installed, like some small rear sofa models. If you have a cable-driven slide that sticks into the RV, it might block you from being able to have a like theater seat upgrade or a hide-a-bed upgrade instead of just a plain jackknife sofa. So that's one of the very few hiccups on these. Now, these are fairly easy to override. Actually, they're about the easiest to override, because the override thing is actually located right behind the middle block of the center of the slide out. This whole faceplate here just comes right off. There's going to be like a little bendy screwdriver attachment that you hook into it. You hook your that attachment up to like a 12 or 18 volt screwdriver, set it on low, and run the slide in or out. And it's very simple and easy to do that, actually. Thankfully, I don't know anyone that's ever really had to do it. And that says something concerning the number of people I know that go camping, and I'm sure someone has. I don't think anything is beyond the chance of failure. But the fact that with all of my years of experience and all the people I've reached with these videos, that I can't name one instance of one person that I know personally that had to do this, I think that's pretty darn good. Now let's take a look at a very traditional rack and pinion slide system, sometimes called a cog drive or a ram bar slide or whatever. There's nothing flashy, nothing fancy about these. They share the similarity with cable-driven slides in that they can go out and then go down floor flush, but after that, they're like a mirror negative image evil twin of cable-driven slide outs. They have like the exact opposite profile. So this is a heavier system, significantly heavier than a cable-driven system. It's less expensive, but what's neat about this system is that, again, it can be floor flush, which is one of only 2 slide systems that can do that, but also it is very affordable. It's one of the most affordable slide systems out there. And you notice inside the RV, as compared to the cable slide out, they're far more wall flush. They're a lot closer to the wall. Not perfectly wall flush, obviously, but you get the idea. So remember how the cable-driven slide outs, the way that the slide out stuck into the RV might sometimes on some floor plans prevent good furniture options. Well, you don't have that problem here, and there's a lot of instances where floor plans, like I mentioned, those smaller rear sofas, you know, a cable-driven slide-out might prevent fun furniture from being added to the back of it. Whereas with a rack and pinion slide system, you're just not going to have that issue. Now, overriding these manually is a little bit trickier because you do actually have to kind of get under the camper. It can be done, and thankfully, once again, it is extremely uncommon to need something like that. And once again, I always recommend traveling with like a good 18-volt power drill with the proper little hex nut adapter so that, God forbid, you ever do have to manually override one of these. The manual override ratio on one of these things, because these slides are big and heavy, ladies and gentlemen, especially in some big super slide type fifth wheels. And the slide could be several hundred pounds, so that the turn gear ratio on a manual override on one of these might be like 200 to 1, meaning you crank that thing 200 times for every 1 inch the slide moves. And on a 36-foot or 36-inch deep slide, you can do the math very quickly to understand that that's not a fun day at the park. But again, thankfully, it is exceptionally uncommon. One other little neat thing, I kind of forgot to talk about this on the cable-driven slides, actually. Because you don't have the big blocky mechanism up here, a rack and pinion slide, the ceiling can actually be taller. It can get closer to the roof of the RV because you don't have all the mechanical stuff that you need to leave space for. So that's one of the other cool things about these, is they can leave you more headroom in a smaller camper. And of course, we need to take a moment to talk about Schwintek slide systems. That's the little silvery worm gear that you see on the side of the camper. And there is nothing wrong with these. These things have they got a very bad reputation in the business. And it's not the slide system's fault, nor is it the designer of the slide system's fault. These things, when used appropriately, are fine. These are designed to be used on slides that only go straight in or out. They can't go floor flush. They're also designed to be used on generally shallow slides, but always lighter weight slides. It's a low load system, not a heavy load system like that ram bar, or a heavy load system like the cable slide outs on the Passport that we already looked at. This is designed to be used in something that has very little weight in it when the slide is going in and out. So if it's just a sofa, or if it's just a dinette, or if it's just a bedroom closet slide that's not very deep, or a shallow bedroom slide, you're going to be okay. Now, when used appropriately, they're great. The problem with these things, and the reason that they have such a bad reputation, is when these first came out, these are incredibly lightweight systems, rivaling the lightweight nature of something like a cable-driven slide-out. They're also very affordable, so they kind of, in that respect, combine the best benefits of both a rack and pinion slide with a cable-driven slide. So the problem is, RV designers said, no, man, look at this. We can take this lightweight, inexpensive slide system, and we can use it on like 16-foot-long or greater length slide-outs. And we're going to put sofas and dinettes and closets and beds and every other thing in these things. So we're going to, really just lighten up and cheapen up our RVs from a price tag standpoint, and people won't have to sacrifice anything. The problem is the slide system was never made to do that, and the motors were failing. Now, very much like a rack and pinion slide, since there's no mechanism that has to be hidden behind slide fascia, these are very good for leaving the interiors of RVs largely unprotested, so there's not usually a lot of the slide fascia sticking into the camper. Another really neat thing on these, because of the fact that this is a slide out system, it's called an above floor slide. It's all installed above the floor of the RV. That means that the main decks of the RVs can be completely carpetless. Now, I wish more manufacturers would keep that in mind, and they would build carpetless slide floors at the same time. Some manufacturers do, some don't, but the fact is at least your main deck can be carpetless when you are involved in a Schwintek slide. Now, some of the other neat things about these things that you can't see, this is a self-adjusting slide system. When you push the slide button and hold it, every time the slide gets all the way in or out, it'll actually go through a little left to right, up to down adjustment period. You actually hear it kind of go, you know, sort of sounds like a NASCAR race driver tire change kind of thing. But what it's doing is it's making sure that the slide is all the way in or out. Now, sometimes, like, if you have cargo in here and you didn't see it or cargo shifted, got behind the slide fascia, it could cause the slide out to kind of kick a little bit, so that when this wall, you know, if you're going out and it's not straight and this wall touches first, it'll kind of right itself. Now, it'll go about, like, is it like a ½ inch or something like that each time, so you might have to put the slide in or out a few times, but it will level itself back out. You can, I'm not saying it's fun, but you can basically manual override these. The motor, you actually pop out of the wall, which is a little bit different. I don't really have this one in a good position for me to demonstrate that currently. And there are ways to resync all the motors. So generally speaking, the manufacturer has been pretty good about, you know, support on these and offering information. But again, thankfully, we don't tend to run into any problems on these when they are used and installed properly by RV designers. Now, something you don't see a whole lot of is something called a power gear slide system. They tend to be used in areas where Schwintek slides used to be used but should not have been used. It's another lightweight system. It's very good for slides that are above the floor and they go all the way in or out. But you notice that you don't see anything on the side of the slide out, and you don't see anything underneath. Very similar to Schwintek and rack and pinion slides, the slide out is as close to a wall flush as you can be. So where's all the stuff? Well, if we look down toward the floor level, you can actually see how, like, the sofa sticks into the RV a fair amount. The motor is actually going to be, like, your motor and your drives and everything are located inside the RV effectively, just above the floor, but just inside. So it does require some of the stuff to be inside of the RV, but what it allows for, again, is a carpetless main deck. And see, here's an example of how you can have a carpetless main deck and a carpetless dining area. What was I getting at? Carpetless main deck, but also the lightweight and fat. Now, this slide system moves fast. That is one of the coolest parts about it. These things move very quickly, unlike a lot of other slide systems that move very slow. It is a little bit more expensive slide system, but it's also something that's proven itself far more reliable in an area, again, where a Schwintek system seems appropriate, but the slide would weigh too much. Now, so far, everything we looked at has been an electric slide out. What about hydraulic slides? So the question is, which one am I looking at right now? It's kinda hard to tell, isn't it? Because I was looking at a hydraulic slide, and now we're looking at an electric slide, and I don't mean the dance. They look awful similar from the outside. You know, a lot of the mechanical components between them are pretty darn similar. It's kind of just the way that they're controlled. So if we go up to the front of this RV, you can actually see the whole, like, hydraulic brains of this thing. Now, this RV is a Montana that we're looking at, has hydraulic slides and leveling. And just like everything else, they all have their own different benefits and advantages. What's cool about hydraulic stuff is it moves so much faster. It's like 2 or 3 times faster than electric. And, you know, a lot of folks, you know, when you're camping, when you're RVing, time is a resource. Just like water, just like air. Time is a resource. It's something you only have a finite amount of. So anything that helps you set camp, break camp quicker, faster, easier, you know, and easier is another word. It's called recreational vehicles. It's supposed to be fun and easy. That stuff makes sense. Now you look at this, and it is a scary nightmare. Thankfully, it's one that's been, you know, used for a long, long time, and we don't tend to see a lot of troubles with this. No more than anything else. You know, it's pretty darn uncommon. So the, again, benefits here is that it can move a lot faster. However, it also becomes less expensive when you are looking at more than one slide out. And a lot of the reasoning there, because, you know, you're like, how is it less expensive? you already looked at it with me, and I mean, you guys already got to see that it has like the same like rack and pinion ram bar looking stuff, and those are good for like slide adjustments. It makes it very easy to adjust the slide. So I mean, if they have the same guts, how is this less expensive once you get to 2 slides? And the answer is because you don't have to buy new motors. You only need 1 motor. So a hydraulic system, basically, where you save is instead of having an individual motor for every single slide out, you end up having 1 single motor for all the slides. Now, old hydraulic systems, you would push 1 button and the lightest weight slide out would go first and then the heaviest weight. And generally speaking, they still work that way. But most, in fact, newer hydraulic systems will have individual flow valves. And they can be located anywhere. In the case of a Montana, they're very intelligent about their placement, like they are about most things. And they have the flow valve location right here in like the auto leveling housing. And you can look at it very simply, hydraulic room control, door slide, off door slide, ODS. So you can turn these on or off as you need to. Basically, all you're doing is controlling simple valves, so that if you only want to operate one or the other slide, you can right here. Woo, excuse me, came out of nowhere, pardon me. Anyway, so that should this is a brief overview, guys. There's lots of different RVs, lots of different slide systems, and once again, they all have advantages and they're all good in different ways. It's kind of like the old argument of like OSB versus plywood, which one's better? And the answer is it depends on how it's being used and where it's being used. That's why there's no one clear-cut answer. When people sometimes will call me or ask, Josh, what's the best RV? What's the best slide out? What's the best anything? The answer is, well, that depends. Which one is the best for you? So that's why I put these videos together. I like to give you an idea. There's hard specifics, some very fine details on anything and everything in this business. That's not what this video is about. This video is here to give you a general idea so that you have a functional understanding of what you're looking at before you go shopping. So if that's useful, share a video every now and then. Be sure to like and subscribe. And short of that, give our team a call here at Haylett RV. Take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.